We've covered the best strategies for winning the game of Tic Tac Toe. With a little bit of practice, we should be unbeatable. Today we're going to try flipping the rules and declaring that the first player to get 3 in a row loses. This game sometimes goes by the name of Misere Tic Tac Toe, Misere, how do you say that?
Misère.
At any rate, a misère game is a game where you declare the previous win condition to be a loss. A lot of games become quite interesting when you flip the win condition. So what do you think? If you had to, could you intentionally lose a game of tic-tac-toe, even if your opponent was trying to lose as well? Let's analyze it and learn for ourselves. We won't spoil it by giving away the answer now. But first off, what does our intuition say? The second player should have a bit of an advantage because they only have to take 4 turns while the first player takes 5 turns. The second player will be playing for a win, while the first player should be playing for a draw. We might also assume that we should avoid playing in the center square. After all, the center square is part of 4 distinct lines, while the corners only belong to 3 lines, and the edge squares only belong to 2 lines. Let's start by trying to solve a puzzle. Which side will win in this game of reverse tic-tac-toe if both players play their best? This would be a good time to pause the video and try to figure it out on your own. It turns out that O will win because O can force X to play in the bottom left corner. O will just make some waiting moves while X runs out of ways to avoid claiming that lower left corner square. Going last can be rough. So note that X always has to go last. So if X has claimed 2 slots on a line that has a 3rd slot available, then there's a good chance that O can force a win. In this case, O had several available squares to choose from, and none of those choices could have resulted in a loss for O. In that case, we know that O can force a win. To win this game, you'll want to look for situations where one side has filled 2/3 of an open line. There are 3 scenarios to consider. The first player could claim an edge, a corner, or the center square. If X starts with an edge, then O can force a win by claiming any of the blue squares. I'd suggest that you just memorize the strategy that you should always claim one of the closest edge squares. Let's go over how we know O could force a win from here. So if X plays in any of these 4 squares, then X would already have claimed 2/3 of an open line, and in that case, O could force a win. The other possible replies need to be checked individually. If X doesn't claim the square directly across from O, then O wins by claiming that square and then playing along the outer edge for the remainder of its turns. If X does claim the edge directly across from O, then O could win by claiming the corner square between X and O. And regardless of where X replies, O could force a win from here. If the first player claims a corner, then O could force a win by claiming any of the edges. Again, I'd suggest the strategy of just memorizing that you should claim one of the closest edge squares. How do we know that O can force a win from here? Well, if X plays in any of these 4 squares, then X would already have claimed 2/3 of an open line, and in each of those cases, O could force a win. The other 3 possibilities need to be considered individually. If X doesn't play directly across from O, then O can win by claiming that square. X will eventually be forced to claim the center square if O continues to play along the outer edge. If X does claim the edge directly across from O, then O could win by claiming the corner square that completely fills one row, and regardless of where X replies, O could force a win with careful play. The final scenario to consider is if the first player claims the center square. In that case, X can force a draw by mirroring each move that O makes. Following this strategy, it's actually quite easy for the first player to draw. Notice that this is the exact opposite of what our intuition said before we started analyzing. It's crazy. It turns out the center square is the exact square that you want to claim first. In summary, the first player can always force a draw if they claim the center for the first move, and then choose the square opposite of their opponent's choice. If the first player claims a square that is not the center square, then the second player can force a win by claiming one of the closest edge squares. As a final challenge, take a look at this partially completed game of reverse tic-tac-toe. Which side will win if both sides make their best plays from here on out? Leave your answer in the comments.